She chose a Tuesday. I remember that detail specifically because Tuesdays were our day. The cafe on Brennan Street with the sticky third table by the window, the one we always claimed because the light hit it differently in the afternoon. We had spent 100 Tuesdays there. Bad coffee and good conversations and her foot bumping mine under the table without apology. She ended it on a Tuesday at that table in that light. I should have known something was wrong when she arrived already seated. Lily always waited for me outside. Said she hated walking into places alone. That morning she was already at the table when I pushed through the door, her hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't touched, her eyes tracking me across the room with an expression I hadn't seen before. Decided. That was the word for it. She had decided before she arrived. "Hey," I said sitting down. "You're early." "I needed to be here first," she said. I ordered coffee I didn't drink. She talked for a while about where we were going, about the future, about what she needed from a relationship. Her voice was careful and rehearsed. The voice of someone who had practiced in the mirror. I listened the way you listen when you already feel the ground moving beneath you but haven't fallen yet. Then she glanced down. My car keys were on the table between us. Old Toyota, 11 years old, paint fading at the hood. A small dent on the passenger side I kept meaning to fix. She looked at those keys and laughed. Not cruelly. Almost sadly. The way you laugh at something you've finally accepted. "I can't build a future with someone who has nothing," she said. The cafe kept moving around us. The barista called an order. Someone laughed near the door. The afternoon light came through the window exactly the way it always did. I stayed very still. There was something rising in my chest that wanted to speak. That wanted to say, "You have no idea what you are looking at. You have no idea whose keys those are, what name is on the accounts, what buildings have my father's name on the deed." I let it pass. I looked at her and said, "I understand." "You're not angry?" she asked. No. She seemed almost disappointed by that. Like she had prepared for a fight and arrived in an empty room. We finished the conversation quietly. She left first. I sat at the table for another 20 minutes staring at the old Toyota key and asking myself the question I had been asking for 2 years of keeping this secret. Was I wrong to hide it? My father, Richard Hale, built the Hale Group from a single import business into a corporation that operated across 4 countries. His name appeared on buildings. His face appeared in financial magazines. When people Googled my last name, his legacy came up before I did. I had spent 2 years living without it. A mid-level job at a marketing firm under my mother's maiden name, a small apartment I paid for myself, a Toyota that needed work. Not because I had to. Because I needed to know the difference. Between being chosen and being selected. Between being loved and being acquired. Lily had answered that question. Not with malice. That was the part one kept returning to on the walk home. She hadn't been cruel. She had simply been honest about what mattered to her. A future required a foundation. My foundation, as she understood it, was insufficient. She wasn't wrong about what she saw. She just never knew what she wasn't looking at. That night I stood in my bathroom mirror for a long time. My reflection didn't look like the son of one of the richest men in the country. It looked like a man who had just been left at a cafe table on a Tuesday. Good, I thought. That was exactly the point. I went to bed believing I had made the right choice. My phone rang at 11:43. Daniel. I picked up. "Bro." His voice was strange. Tight. "I think Lily just found out who your father is." Daniel told me everything in fragments, the way he always delivered bad news, like if he spread it out thin enough it would hurt less. My father had attended the Hale Group's annual industry dinner. Routine event, 50 tables, business press in the back. Someone had asked him on camera about succession, about the future of the company, about whether his son would follow him into the industry. My father, being my father, had smiled and said, "Adrian has always done things on his own terms." I respect that more than I can say. The clip was 40 seconds long. It had been shared 400 times by morning. Daniel had seen it because a mutual friend tagged him. The mutual friend had tagged him because they remembered Adrian Hale from 2 years ago, before the quiet name change, before the ordinary apartment and the Toyota and the marketing firm. How many people saw it? I asked. Enough, Daniel said. Lily commented on the post, bro. She wrote, "I knew there was something different about him." Pause. She did not know. She is lying in a comment section about a 40-second video. I stared at my ceiling for a while after we hung up. Then I put my phone face down and went to sleep. The first text arrived at 7:14 the next morning. Adrian. We need to talk. I made coffee. I've been thinking about us a lot lately. I drank the coffee. I made a mistake. I want you to know that. I put on my jacket. Asterisk, I didn't know the truth. About you. About everything. I feel terrible. Asterisk. I drove to work in the Toyota with the fading paint and the dent on the passenger side that I still hadn't fixed. The engine made the small sound it always made at cold starts. The radio played something I didn't listen to. At lunch, 4 more messages. By evening, 11 total. The last one said, asterisk, I never stopped loving you. Please just let me explain. Asterisk. I read that one twice. Not because it moved me. Because I was looking for the architecture of it. The specific way it was built. I never stopped implied continuity, implied that love had been present the whole time and simply misplaced, not that it had been absent and had now returned wearing new motivation. It was a careful sentence. She had always been careful with sentences. I did not reply. She knocked on my apartment door at 8:15 the following evening. I knew it was her before I opened it. Daniel had warned me she was asking around for my address. I had considered not answering. But there was something in me that wanted to see it directly, to stand inside this moment without flinching and look at it clearly. I opened the door. She looked beautiful. She had dressed for this. Hair down, the blue coat she knew I liked, eyes that moved to mine immediately with something that performed very well as devastation. Adrian, she said. Lily. Can I come in? I stepped back and let her in without a word. She stood in the middle of my small living room and looked around it with new eyes. I watched her do it. The same apartment she had visited a dozen times before, the same furniture, the same stack of books on the side table. But she was seeing it differently now. Recalibrating. Adjusting the story she told herself about what this place meant. I owe you an apology, she said. Okay. What I said at the cafe was wrong. I was scared and I said something I didn't mean. You meant it, I said. She flinched. Adrian? You looked at my keys and you made a decision. That was real. That was honest. I don't hold it against you. I love you, she said. The words landed and stayed on the surface of things. I looked at her eyes. Not at the tears forming at the corners. At the eyes themselves. At what was moving behind them. I had spent 2 years learning the difference between being chosen and being selected. I knew what I was looking at. She crossed the room and put her arms around me. Sudden, committed, the kind of embrace that tries to communicate what words couldn't carry. I stood inside it for one moment. Then I stepped back. Gently. Without anger. Just back. She looked at me with something flickering through her expression. Surprise. Recalculation. The momentary confusion of a strategy not landing as planned. I felt something I hadn't expected to feel. Not satisfaction exactly. Clarity. The kind that comes when you finally stop waiting for something to make sense and realize it already has. She picked up her bag slowly. At the door she turned back. I won't give up on you, she whispered. I nodded once. I closed the door. I stood in my ordinary apartment, in my ordinary life, and felt more like myself than I had in years. Lily did not disappear after my silence. She escalated. 3 days after she showed up at my apartment, she appeared in my office lobby wearing white and holding coffee from the place we used to visit on Saturdays. My receptionist, Nina, called me upstairs. Your girlfriend is here, she said. She isn't my girlfriend. I took the elevator down and found Lily by the glass doors, posing sadness for anyone who looked her way. I brought you coffee, she said. You brought yourself. She winced. Adrian, please don't do this. Do what? Act like we meant nothing. I kept my hands in my pockets. You ended us in a cafe because you thought I had nothing. I was confused. You were clear. She stepped closer. Can we have dinner tonight? No. Tomorrow? No. Her smile thinned. You used to be kinder. I used to be poorer. By the end of the week, flowers arrived at my office. Daniel sent me a screenshot. She's building a narrative, he said over the phone. I noticed. Half the comments think you're secretly back together. I haven't answered one message. That won't matter if she keeps performing in public. I rubbed my forehead. She wants people to think she never let go. No, Daniel said. She wants people to think you never did. My father called that same night. Come by tomorrow, he said. He poured tea for both of us and got straight to the point. Money attracts wolves, he said. Lily isn't subtle enough to be a wolf. That helps them, he said. They use charm and urgency. She met you, didn't she? Yesterday. I looked up sharply. How? She requested 5 minutes through my assistant and called herself someone important to your future. My father's gaze stayed steady. She told me she regretted leaving you. She said she loved you before she knew who you were. What did you say? I asked her what your favorite book was. I blinked. What? She couldn't answer. Then I asked what you do when you're hurt. I looked down at my cup. She said you become distant, he continued. I told her no. You become quieter but kinder. Even in pain. My throat tightened unexpectedly. Dad. You waved that away. I also told her she would not be speaking to you through me. And she called me intimidating and left. The next Tuesday, I went to the Hale Foundation to review a youth literacy proposal my father wanted funded. That was where I met Sophie. She was standing on a ladder in the storage room, arguing with a broken label maker. If you throw it, I said, it wins. She looked down at me. It has already won. Need help? Do you know anything about office equipment? Not enough to deserve confidence. That got a laugh out of her. No performance. She climbed down and held out the label maker. Be useful anyway. I'm Adrian. Sophie. We spent 20 minutes fixing nothing. Then she said, you're terrible at this but you passed attitude. High praise. It was medium praise. Don't get greedy. I started finding reasons to visit the foundation. At first, budget reports and meetings. Then less impressive reasons. You forgot your notebook, she said one afternoon. I did. You left it on purpose. That accusation is impossible to prove. She handed it to me. You're smiling more. So are you. Sophie treated me like a man, not a headline. She never asked about the house, the company, the cars I didn't drive. She wanted to know what I read, what I cooked badly, why I hated networking events, why I looked relieved every time I entered the foundation office. One evening we walked out together after a fundraiser planning meeting. The city was washed in soft rain, streetlights turning the sidewalks gold. You always look surprised when I buy my own coffee, she said. I was raised around people who weaponize generosity. And now I like people who don't keep score. She looked at me for a long second. That sounds expensive. The calm I felt with her scared me a little. No guessing. No reading the air. No wondering who I was standing beside. Then Lily found out. I knew before I saw her. Daniel texted me at 9:12 p.m. Lily is posting about some charity girl stealing her man. Call me. My stomach dropped. I opened social media and found 3 stories already up. No names but enough details. A blurry photo of Sophie outside the foundation. A caption about gold diggers hiding behind good deeds. Another about women who chase rich men by pretending to be humble. I called Lily immediately. Finally. What did you do? What did she do? Leave Sophie out of this. So there is a Sophie. My voice went cold. Take it down. She laughed softly. You moved on fast. I moved on the day you laughed at my car keys. That's not fair. No, what you're doing isn't fair. I heard her breathing. Then very quietly, if I can't have a real chance, neither does she. The line went dead. A second later my phone buzzed again. Sophie. Adrian, she said, and I could hear voices in the background, tension, confusion. There's a woman outside the foundation asking for me by name. And suddenly, calm felt like something Lily planned to destroy. Sophie was standing outside the foundation's glass doors when I arrived. Lily was 10 feet away from her. I saw it before I even got out of the car. The particular geometry of a confrontation. 2 people facing each other with the careful distance of women who have not decided yet how far this will go. Sophie had her coat on, bag over one shoulder, keys in her hand like she had been about to leave. Lily had positioned herself between Sophie and the parking lot. Not aggressive. Precise. I walked fast. Lily. My voice came out harder than I intended. Step back. She turned to me with an expression that had been prepared for my arrival. Soft. Wounded. The face of someone being misunderstood rather than caught. I just wanted to talk to her, she said. You came to her workplace. I didn't know where else to. You knew exactly where to come. Sophie looked at me. Her expression was quiet, but there was something underneath it, a careful stillness, the kind you develop when you're deciding how much to trust what's in front of you. She said you two were planning to get back together, Sophie said. My jaw tightened. That's not true. Lily stepped forward. Adrian, you know things are complicated between us. They're not. After everything we had. Lily. I turned to face her fully. We are not complicated. We ended. You ended it. In a cafe. Because you looked at my car keys and decided I wasn't worth your future. She flinched. Then recovered. I made a mistake. So did I said. Mine was believing that your love was unconditional. Sophie hadn't moved. She was watching both of us with the careful attention of someone assembling a picture from pieces. Then she asked it, quietly, without drama. The question I would have respected even if it broke me. Is it true, Adrian? Are you still attached to her? The question landed in the middle of everything and waited. I felt the anger move through me, but underneath it something steadier. Something that had been building for a year of silence and distance and learning what it felt like to stand next to someone who wanted nothing from me except the truth. I looked at Sophie. No, I said. And I should have said what I'm about to say months ago instead of letting this continue. I turned back to Lily. I chose her, I said. Not because she came after me. Not because she showed up at my office with coffee or posted photographs or managed to charm my father for 5 minutes. Because she has never once looked at me and calculated what I was worth. Lily's composure cracked so fast it was almost audible. You are making a fool of yourself, she said, voice rising. She doesn't even know what she's getting. She doesn't understand your world. She'll fall apart the second things get real. You fell apart the second things looked ordinary, I said. I am your world. Her voice climbed further, past strategy, past management, into something raw and uncontrolled. Everything she's getting was supposed to be mine. She is stealing my future. She isn't stealing anything, I said. You let it go when you laughed at my keys. Lily's eyes filled with real tears now. Not the careful ones. Something broken and genuine that I might have responded to once, before I understood what it had cost me to keep believing performed emotion was real connection. Sophie put one hand briefly on my arm, then stepped past both of us and walked toward the parking lot. Not running. Not flinching. Walking with the particular calm of a person who has decided they are not available to absorb someone else's chaos. I watched her go and felt something settle in my chest. Lily said my name once more. I left her standing on the pavement and did not look back. That night I sat across from my father in his study. He looked up from his papers when I came in. Read whatever was on my face in the first second the way he always had and put down his pen. Talk, he said. I spent 3 years hiding who I was, I said. I thought it was wisdom. I thought I was protecting myself from the wrong kind of love. And I found the right kind. Without looking for it. Without testing it. She just showed up on a ladder arguing with a label maker and treated me like a person. My father was quiet for a moment. Does she know? She knows enough. She never cared about the rest. He leaned back in his chair. What are you deciding? I met his eyes. I'm done running from my own name, I said. I'm done hiding behind ordinary on purpose. And the girl? I'm getting married, I said. My father looked at me for a long moment. Then he smiled. The real one. The one I had seen maybe a dozen times in my entire life. Then stop sitting here, he said quietly, and go tell her. Sophie was standing outside the foundation's glass doors when I arrived. Lily was 10 feet away from her. I saw it before I even got out of the car. The particular geometry of a confrontation. 2 people facing each other with the careful distance of women who have not decided yet how far this will go. Sophie had her coat on, bag over one shoulder, keys in her hand like she had been about to leave. Lily had positioned herself between Sophie and the parking lot. Not aggressive. Precise. I walked fast. Lily. My voice came out harder than I intended. Step back. She turned to me with an expression that had been prepared for my arrival. Soft. Wounded. The face of someone being misunderstood rather than caught. I just wanted to talk to her, she said. You came to her workplace. I didn't know where else to. You knew exactly where to come. Sophie looked at me. Her expression was quiet, but there was something underneath it, a careful stillness, the kind you develop when you're deciding how much to trust what's in front of you. She said you two were planning to get back together, Sophie said. My jaw tightened. That's not true. Lily stepped forward. Adrian, you know things are complicated between us. They're not. After everything we had. Lily. I turned to face her fully. We are not complicated. We ended. You ended it. In a cafe. Because you looked at my car keys and decided I wasn't worth your future. She flinched. Then recovered. I made a mistake. So did I said. Mine was believing that your love was unconditional. Sophie hadn't moved. She was watching both of us with the careful attention of someone assembling a picture from pieces. Then she asked it, quietly, without drama. The question I would have respected even if it broke me. Is it true, Adrian? Are you still attached to her? The question landed in the middle of everything and waited. I felt the anger move through me, but underneath it something steadier. Something that had been building for a year of silence and distance and learning what it felt like to stand next to someone who wanted nothing from me except the truth. I looked at Sophie. No, I said. And I should have said what I'm about to say months ago instead of letting this continue. I turned back to Lily. I chose her, I said. Not because she came after me. Not because she showed up at my office with coffee or posted photographs or managed to charm my father for 5 minutes. Because she has never once looked at me and calculated what I was worth. Lily's composure cracked so fast it was almost audible. You are making a fool of yourself, she said, voice rising. She doesn't even know what she's getting. She doesn't understand your world. She'll fall apart the second things get real. You fell apart the second things looked ordinary, I said. I am your world. Her voice climbed further, past strategy, past management, into something raw and uncontrolled. Everything she's getting was supposed to be mine. She is stealing my future. She isn't stealing anything, I said. You let it go when you laughed at my keys. Lily's eyes filled with real tears now. Not the careful ones. Something broken and genuine that I might have responded to once, before I understood what it had cost me to keep believing performed emotion was real connection. Sophie put one hand briefly on my arm, then stepped past both of us and walked toward the parking lot. Not running. Not flinching. Walking with the particular calm of a person who has decided they are not available to absorb someone else's chaos. I watched her go and felt something settle in my chest. Lily said my name once more. I left her standing on the pavement and did not look back. That night I sat across from my father in his study. He looked up from his papers when I came in. Read whatever was on my face in the first second the way he always had and put down his pen. Talk, he said. I spent 3 years hiding who I was, I said. I thought it was wisdom. I thought I was protecting myself from the wrong kind of love. And I found the right kind. Without looking for it. Without testing it. She just showed up on a ladder arguing with a label maker and treated me like a person. My father was quiet for a moment. Does she know? She knows enough. She never cared about the rest. He leaned back in his chair. What are you deciding? I met his eyes. I'm done running from my own name, I said. I'm done hiding behind ordinary on purpose. And the girl? I'm getting married, I said. My father looked at me for a long moment. Then he smiled. The real one. The one I had seen maybe a dozen times in my entire life. Then stop sitting here, he said quietly, and go tell her. I did not plan the beach. Sophie had mentioned it once, 3 weeks earlier, in the middle of a conversation about something else entirely. We were talking about noise, about the kind of quiet that actually restores something instead of just pausing it, and she said, there's this beach about an hour north. I used to go there when I needed to remember what things felt like without everyone watching. I filed it away without telling her I had. I drove us there on a Saturday morning in the Toyota with the fading paint. She brought coffee in paper cups and didn't ask where we were going until we were 40 minutes out of the city. Adrian. Almost there. Are you kidnapping me? You are extremely calm for someone making that accusation. I trust your driving. I'm reserving judgment on everything else. The beach was small and pale and almost completely empty. Cold wind off the water, gray sky pressing low, the particular kind of beautiful that doesn't perform for anyone. We walked to the edge of the water and stood there for a while, shoulders touching, drinking coffee that was already going cold. I had the ring in my jacket pocket. My grandmother's, passed to my father, passed to me last month when he said simply, you'll know when. I turned to face her. She looked at me with those steady eyes and said, what's happening? I want to ask you something. Okay. I need you to know first that the answer doesn't change anything practical. We keep doing what we're doing either way. I'm not asking because of pressure or timing or because something scared me into it. She tilted her head. Adrian. I'm asking because standing next to you is the first time in years I have not been performing a version of myself for a specific outcome. She was very still. I reached into my pocket. You argued with a label maker the first time I saw you, I said. You gave me medium praise. You bought your own coffee and kept score of nothing. You have never once looked at me like I was a solution to a problem. Her eyes filled slowly without drama. Sophie, I said. Will you marry me? She looked at the ring for exactly 1 second. Then she looked at me. Yes, she said. Not after questions about the house or the company or what life would look like with a hail attached to her name. Not after pausing to calculate the weight of the decision against the weight of the benefits. Just yes, clean and direct, with the cold wind moving her hair and the gray water behind her and a paper coffee cup still in her left hand. I put the ring on her finger. She laughed once, surprised by her own tears. It's beautiful. It was my grandmother's. That makes it more beautiful. I held her face in both hands and kissed her while the water came in behind us. No cameras. No guests. No performance. Just the truth of it. Lily called at 11 that night. I don't know how she found out so quickly. The ring was barely on Sophie's finger. We had told no one except my father and Daniel. But Lily had always been efficient with information that mattered to her survival. I didn't answer. She arrived at my house 40 minutes later. The rain had started an hour before, heavy and cold, and she was standing in it when I opened the door. Hair flattened, mascara tracking dark lines down her face, hands shaking at her sides. She dropped to her knees on my front step. I had imagined something like this in the abstract. I thought it would feel like power. Instead, it felt like watching something collapse that had been structurally unsound for a very long time. I was stupid, she said. I know that. I have known it since the cafe. Please, Adrian. Cancel it. Whatever you announced, cancel it. I love you. I have always loved you. Get up, Lily. Not until you hear me. I'm hearing you. Then listen. Her voice broke. She doesn't know you the way I do. She doesn't know your history, your family, the life you come from. I know all of it. I know you. You knew my last name, I said. That's different. That is not fair. You didn't love me, I said. You loved the lifestyle. The name. What it meant for your future. When you thought I had nothing, you left in under an hour. She slapped me. It was fast and sharp and she looked horrified by herself the second it landed. I touched my jaw once. Took a breath. I forgive you for that, I said quietly. But it doesn't change anything. She crumbled forward onto the step and sobbed in a way that had nothing calculated left in it. I went inside. My father released the engagement announcement through the family press office Monday morning. A single paragraph. A photograph from the foundation where Sophie worked. By afternoon, it had moved across every financial and society publication in the country. Sophie called me, slightly overwhelmed. There are 12 missed calls from numbers I don't recognize. Welcome to the name, I said. I'm going to need a moment. Take 2. Lily went silent after Monday. No texts. No appearances. No posts. Daniel said, "It's over, man. She's gone." I almost believed him. I should have known better. 3 days later, my father's assistant called with something that made my stomach drop. Lily had requested a meeting with the Hale Group's board of directors. Daniel told me at the reception. Not the whole story at once. In pieces, the way he always delivered things he wasn't sure I was ready to hear. We were standing near the edge of the terrace, the party moving warmly behind us, Sophie somewhere inside laughing with her foundation colleagues, the evening light doing something generous across the garden. I heard something today, Daniel said. Tonight, Daniel? Really? It involves Lily. I turned my cup slowly. Go ahead. She borrowed money. He paused. A significant amount. From who? Private lenders. Some from her mother. A personal loan she took out 8 months ago. He looked at me carefully. Around the time she found out who you were. I was quiet. She was positioning herself, Daniel continued. New wardrobe. A car upgrade. She moved into a better apartment. She told at least 3 people that she was going to be a Hale by the end of the year. The terrace was quiet except for the party behind us. She was spending against a future that wasn't real, I said. She was spending against a future she was certain she could manufacture. I set my cup down on the stone railing and looked out over the garden. I thought about Lily on her knees in the rain outside my house. Her mother calling the board. The escalating strategies, each one more desperate than the last, building towards something she had already financially committed to before it was hers. She had not been chasing love. She had been chasing a return on investment. And the investment had failed. Where is she now? I asked. Home. Her mother isn't speaking to her. Daniel hesitated. The friends she told about marrying into the Hale family have mostly gone quiet. Nobody wants to be associated with the board meeting story. The isolation is its own punishment, I said. You're not happy about it. No. He looked at me sideways. Not even a little? I thought about it honestly. The night she laughed at my keys. The texts. The flowers. The kneeling in the rain. The slap. The board meeting. All of it, every move had come from the same source. Not malice exactly. Something smaller and sadder than malice. She had simply valued the wrong things and built her entire architecture around them. And when the foundation proved imaginary, Everything she had constructed on top of it came down with it. I feel sorry for her, I said. Not enough to change anything. But genuinely sorry. Daniel nodded slowly. That's very mature and I slightly resent it. I laughed despite everything. Sophie appeared at the terrace door, still in her dress, holding 2 cups. She looked between us and read the atmosphere with the accuracy she always had. Should I leave you too? No, I said. Come here. She handed me a cup and stood beside me at the railing. I told her briefly, quietly, the outline of what Daniel had said. She listened without interrupting. Then she said, "Is she going to be okay?" That question. That specific question from the woman Lily had targeted and threatened and tried to dismantle. I looked at Sophie. I don't know, I said honestly. Someone should check on her eventually. Not today, I said. No, she agreed. Not today. We stood together at the railing while the party continued behind us, warm and generous and completely real. Choices had consequences. Lily had made hers a long time ago, long before the rain, long before the board meeting, long before the borrowed money. The moment she looked at a man who loved her and saw only what he was worth. That was where it had ended. Before it ever truly began.